Snoop Dogg is one of the most recognizable faces in all of Hollywood, but it's a career that almost never happened. Now, in 1990, he was convicted of cocaine possession, then 3 years later, he pleaded guilty to gun possession. Snoop was also tried and acquitted of murder charges back in 1996. Now, this case involved the killing of an alleged gang member who was shot by someone in the vehicle Snoop was riding in. Despite a number of brushes with the law over the past couple of decades, well, Snoop Dogg, he's always managed to walk the line between gangster rap superstar and family-friendly entertainer. Now, his career had spanned over 3 decades, which includes 18 studio albums, and he's given us classics like Beautiful, Drop It Like It's Hot, Gin and Juice, and my personal favorite, Bad Intentions. Now, he's also transitioned into becoming an unlikely Hollywood lead, appearing in films like Starsky and Hutch, The Wash, and Training Day. Now, he's worked and collaborated with everyone from Katy Perry to Suge Knight, which we're going to discuss more in this video, and he also has the strangest BFF relationship with none other than Martha Stewart.
Martha's favorite dish?
I would have to say seafood.
Is that true?
Could be.
Now, if you're just finding out about Snoop Dogg now following his Super Bowl halftime show performance, or if you're a longtime fan who wants more intricate details about his come up, well then stay tuned to today's updated before their famous video. Snoop Dogg was born Codozer Calvin Brodus Jr. in Long Beach, California on October 20th, 1971. Now, speaking of names, he actually got his nickname Snoop Dogg pretty early on in life. Now, his mother, she gave it to him after realizing that he looked an awful lot like Snoopy from the Peanuts cartoon. Snoop was a musically inclined youngster, and he played piano and he sang at his local Baptist church from a very young age. He started rapping as early as the 6th grade. Now, Snoop, he graduated high school, but after that, well, trouble, it started to follow him everywhere he went. He was arrested several times for drug possession, and he spent some time in prison. Now, he also associated himself with the Rolling 20 Crips gang. Now, in order to find his way out of troubles, well, Snoop, he started making music. He recorded early demos with his cousin Nate Dogg and friend Warren G as a hip-hop trio known as 213. Now, eventually, one of their tracks, it came to the attention of Dr. Dre, who then invited Snoop to collaborate on a song called Deep Cover for the soundtrack of a film with the exact same name. When Dre released his hugely successful album, The Chronic, in 1992, well, Snoop, he was a key rapper who was heavily featured. It was around that time that Snoop, he signed to Death Row Records, the label founded by Dre and Suge Knight. More on that in just a minute. Snoop was now primed for the release of his first solo album, the Dre-produced Doggy Style, in 1993. The album climbed its way to the #1 spot on Billboard's hip-hop Top 200 charts, based on the strength of single sales like Who Am I, What's My Name, and of course, Gin and Juice. Next, Snoop, he acted in the Dr. Dre-directed short film called Murder Was the Case, in which Snoop is murdered and then resurrected after making a deal with the devil. Now, Snoop had always been a big fan of horror movies, and you can see that influence here. Now, this was only an 18-minute promotional film, and obviously it wasn't a masterpiece, but it's still an entertaining mixture of rap culture and horror film nonetheless. Plus, it gave Snoop some experience for his future acting ambitions. In 1996, he released The Dogfather, which also made its way to the top of the charts, despite the absence of Dre, who had left Death Row Records by this time, over an increasing disdain for the violent ways in which Suge was running the business and putting his clients in dangerous situations. Now, one such example was Snoop finding himself on trial for the murder of an alleged gang member that was shot and killed by someone who was in the same vehicle as Snoop. Yeah, you know what I mean. Now, Snoop was eventually acquitted, but if he had been found guilty, well, he would have been locked away for 11 years. Now, at this point, well, Snoop, he was growing tired of Suge's violent ways as well, and he no longer wanted to feature it as heavily in his music. In fact, he told VH1 in 2011, "The Dogfather was a rebirth for me. I'm not going to glorify none of this negativity that Death Row wanted me to do. I'm going to bring a positive side of music." As such, The Dogfather was Snoop's last record for Death Row. He then hooked up with Master P's No Limit Records. After this, Snoop, he became far more outspoken about his disdain for Suge. In fact, he once told BET, "I was working against the devil." Now, Suge found himself in prison soon after for a parole violation and responded to Snoop's comment by saying he used to be a superstar, now he's just a no-limit soldier. Now, this prompted a now legendary response from Snoop, wherein he replied, he used to be a CEO, now he's just an inmate. After his release from prison in 2001, Suge Knight, he was promising to revert to the rap game back to the Wild Wild West, saying that he had plenty of scores to settle. By this point, Snoop, he had released 3 albums with No Limit, concluding with the record The Last Meal. Now Suge, he started pressing Exhibit about his relationship with Snoop, but Snoop wasn't gonna have any of it. Now he decided to put Suge on blast for all to see by releasing the diss track Pimp Slapped. And in this song, well, Snoop, he leaves nothing to the imagination, where he stated, "Suge Knight's a bitch, and that's on my life." He even extended an invitation for the two to go one-on-one, be it with fists or the knife. Now, considering that no one else was really willing to take on Suge Knight, well, Snoop Dogg was showing the entire world how little afraid he was of this dude. And Suge Knight's, I mean, he drives over people. You should be afraid. Now, 2002 would come to be the highlight of their beef, marked by both men attending the Vibe Awards and nearly coming to blows. This is like hip-hop history. You gotta see this. Now, soon after, Suge would return to prison for another stint, and Snoop, well, he kept concentrating on music. In 2004, he enjoyed a renaissance of a sort after releasing his hit single, Drop It Like It's Hot, with Pharrell Williams. Now, that same year, he reunited with Warren G and Nate Dogg as 213, and they dropped their album The Hard Way. Now, he also started popping up in films like Training Day, The Wash, and Starsky and Hutch. In 2012, Snoopy decided to change his name to Snoop Lion, but I think the less we talk about that, the better. Needless to say, the change, it didn't stick. By 2013, well, Suge, he was back in Snoop's life, and Snoop, well, he was speaking more respectfully about the man to the point where he repeatedly described the relationship as cool as a motherfucker. Then a couple years later, he explained to Arian Foster how the two had eventually squashed their beef after running into one another while in Las Vegas. There they had a 45-minute face-to-face where Snoop says that the sentiments expressed they were, "I loved you, dude, I could have saved you, I had nothing but love for you," and Suge's side of the conversation is, "Dude, I loved you, I ain't got nothing but love for you." Now, over the past few years, well, Snoop, he's managed to keep himself in the spotlight, whether it's with new music, new TV shows, or just creating digital content like him and Kevin Hart, poking a little fun at the Island Boys. Over on his widely popular Instagram page, he posts content on the daily, keeping in contact with his legion of fans. And now that he's in his 50s, well, he's landed what he's called a dream come true, performing at the halftime show at Super Bowl 56 alongside Dr. Dre, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, and Mary J. Blige. And the crowd goes wild! As long as no one pulls off anything off Mary J. Blige, because no one needs Janet Jackson 2.0. Although that whole fiasco, it's the reason we have YouTube today. No one could find the clip, so they built the website. Yeah, interesting.
In February of 2022, Snoop made one of the biggest full-circle moves out of any rapper in history by acquiring Death Row Records from NRK Music Group, which is controlled by a private equity fund managed by Blackstone. This means that Snoop is now the owner of Death Row Records, the label that introduced him to the world. The label had gone into bankruptcy in 2006 when its infamous former CEO, Suge Knight, lost control of it. In a statement, Snoop said, "I am thrilled and appreciative of the opportunity to acquire the iconic and culturally significant Death Row Records brand, which has immense untapped future value." You know, it's one thing for a rapper to buy his former childhood home or buy a fast food franchise that they used to work at as a kid, but owning the label that broke you to the world, especially when it was Death Row Records, is a different type of coming full circle. So shout out to Snoop for making this happen, and it'll be very interesting to see what the future holds for Death Row Records. Hopefully it'll be more than just a classic band tee that you see up with Led Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses. You know the one I'm talking. Anyways, you got it.
Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap up this video here. Be sure to let us know who to feature next. My name is Michael McCrudden. I'll see you guys in another video.